Actually, Marguerite,
Playing with my Barbies.
can I join you?
Barbies are working through some stuff.
Like what?
Well, you know, my Barbies have a pretty typical life. You know, Ken met Barbie when she was just out of the box. They got a car and a house, and then some things happened, and Barbie's gonna move out, and like, they're getting a divorce, Anne Jones.
So, who's going to handle the sale of Barbie's house?
Well, they have an amazing real estate agent.
So, where do they start? I mean, amidst all this emotional turmoil.
Well, I mean, the first thing they have to decide is who's going to keep the dream house, right? Like, you know, Barbie and Ken probably both work full time and both make that dream house payment. And they first need to decide if one of them wants to stay in the house, maybe with the Barbie kids, or if they want to move out.
Okay.
So, or if they both want to move out. So if it turns out that Ken's going to stay in the house and keep it, then the first thing that has to happen is Ken has to talk to his lender, because Ken's going to need to refinance.
And it's important, Ken's going to have to be able to qualify for that on his own now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole point of the refinance is to get Barbie off the mortgage.
Yeah, it's very important. A lot of people miss this step. I, in fact, missed this step on my own divorce. So I feel very strongly that when people get divorced, that they should make sure to settle as early in the process as possible, when the home is sold, when whoever moves out and when the paperwork is settled, that someone is refinanced off. Because if not, then you have both names on a mortgage for a house that only one person owns. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and we've all sort of had, as agents, we've had these challenging situations where one person calls you and says, I'm not living here anymore, maybe my spouse or ex-spouse isn't making the payments. You really want to avoid that situation. And it's a hard, practical thing in the midst of other emotional challenges, but it's really something you've got to deal with.
Because if 2 or 3 years down the road, Ken's making his payment on the old dream house, no problem. Ken's an upstanding guy. They just parted friends. And like, you know, Barbie's ready to buy another house, maybe on her own, maybe with someone else. Barbie won't qualify, maybe, because she's still on this mortgage. As far as the bank's concerned, she's still married to Ken, and she still has a payment that she owes. So just to bring it all together, if one partner is going to keep the house, make sure that they are the only person on the loan when all is said and done. Now, there's a little more to it than that,
Yeah.
because obviously when you refinance, Barbie is entitled to a share of the equity of the house, most likely. Please consult your divorce attorney. But chances are,
Particularly here in Washington.
she's going to get half that. So if there's $50,000 in Ken and Barbie's house in equity, that's determined by an appraiser, then that means that Barbie gets $25,000. Now Ken can refinance the house and cash Barbie out right away. Woohoo! And Barbie will go on and maybe use that for the down payment on her new house.
Hopefully.
Another way that this can be done, if it's not possible to pull the money out, is for Ken to give Barbie a note, and your divorce attorney can actually draw that up for you, and Ken can make payments over a period of years, maybe with a balloon. So if he refinances in a year or two, he can pay her off in a lump sum. So have that all written down. Talk to an attorney. Your divorce attorney should be able to walk you through it. But just make sure that you refinance the leaving partner off the loan.
Now say that a refinance isn't what you're looking at. You're both moving on. There's too many bad feelings in the house.
Too many memories in the dream house.
Right. You need to sell, or you decide that the two of you need to sell. So this is when we typically will get involved. One of the other things we run into when doing a sale and divorce, just like other distress scenarios, is often the person living in the house is maybe not so excited about selling. Maybe they didn't want to sell. Maybe they didn't want to get divorced.
Yeah.
You still need to live by all of the typical seller rules, which means the house needs to be clean, it needs to be prepared for showings, it needs to be accessible for showings. Otherwise, both people's financial benefits are going to be greatly diminished.
This is the thing that's very challenging, is because obviously by definition, if you're getting divorced, you don't agree on some pretty basic things that maybe you used to agree on,
Right.
but you must agree on selling your house.
And
You know,
hopefully the financial upside will be enough to motivate people to work through this.
absolutely, because it's money in your pocket. And one way to handle it, and I've noticed with my clients, I mean, I'd be curious to hear your perspective, is there tends to be your point of contact. Both people, of course, have to sign all the paperwork. Both people have to approve all of the, pricing, and if there's a price reduction, that they will both have to approve that. But usually there's one person that's the point of contact that can maybe be kind of in charge of running the show. So they'll make sure the showings are coordinated, they'll make sure the house is clean, and maybe the other one can take on some different responsibilities. The biggest thing is sometimes when emotions are running high and maybe people are angry, it can limit access to the house, which limits buyers. And the fewer buyers see your house, the less money you're going to get.
And one of the things that I think we typically run into as agents is the notion that an agent works for him or her or one partner and not the other. And it's really important that you at least come to terms on maybe we'll hire a neutral agent that neither of us are affiliated with.
Yeah.
Because as you move through the sale, and there's bound to be tension, there's tension in non-divorce related transactions, you need to still have that same confidence in your agent that because the agent is representing both of you.
I have an idea, Anne. What if you hired 2 real estate agents?
A team, perhaps?
Maybe a team, or just a couple of nice gals that know how to talk about feelings, and can get through the difficult stuff, because then, you kind of have 2 people that can be working through it. Sometimes people share an attorney when they divorce. Sometimes there's 2 attorneys. That you can certainly get 2 real estate agents for no additional cost. So that's something to consider also. If you kind of want somebody to sort of, if you're not speaking to each other, that might be a way of sort of getting through what could be a really difficult time.
So divorce, death, marriage, births, these are the things that commonly prompt the sale and purchase of homes. It's a pretty regular part of doing business for us. What are some of the challenging scenarios that you've run into? Maybe an example that you've had that you could encourage people?
I think the biggest one is, Barbie and Ken get divorced. Ken keeps the house. 3 years down the road, Ken loses his job and doesn't make the payment, and the house goes into foreclosure. Barbie checks her credit report one day because Ken and her don't talk anymore, and Barbie now has a foreclosure on a house she didn't even own.
Yeah.
And that's the thing you really want to avoid.
And that's actually a great pro tip would be if you're going through a separation, a divorce, some significant shift. I know a client I had a little while back, they were getting regular alerts on their credit, so that if unknowingly somebody missed a payment, intentional or unintentional, but it's going to impact your credit, you may want to be on a little higher alert than you regularly would be. This is a situation we can run into not just with couples that are divorcing too, and it's a frank conversation that sometimes I'll have with people who are considering buying a home who aren't married yet.
Yeah, very common.
Which, is not unusual in this day and age, and certainly there's no judgment on our part as to whether or not you're married when you buy a home, but there are certain processes that are defined when you divorce and you own a home together that are not going to be there if you're not married at the time of purchase, and so you may want to consider some of those difficult decisions up front.
Let's say Barbie and Ken aren't married, and they bought the house, and they are both on the loan. Let's just say that's the scenario.
Most common.
So Ken, Barbie, both on the loan, different last names, not married. Now they're breaking up and they sell the house. Maybe they can't sell the house.
That's the most common situation we've been dealing with the last few years.
Not enough equity to sell the house, so one person's going to keep it. It's actually kind of a similar scenario. Somebody's got to refinance and someone's got to pay the other person back for their share of the equity. Or if there's no equity, someone's got to take responsibility for the house. So something that sometimes people do, so let's say Barbie and Ken break up, Ken's relocating to a new state so he can meet new ladies, and Barbie maybe is going to move in a couple of her friends as roommates to help make the mortgage payment. That's one solution.
Yep. And sometimes that improvisation is what's necessary.
Maybe it's even more fun.
Get left.
Yay!
So, in closing, divorce can be obviously incredibly challenging and complex. A good skilled realtor is just one member of your team that you'll need to get through this. So make sure you interview and hire somebody that is trustworthy and acceptable to both parties, and you'll find your way through.
Thanks, Barbie.
Thanks so much.
I'm a Barbie girl in the Barbie